Welcome to the Happiness Minute. In this episode, we will hear about the remarkable story of Hannah Bradley, a hair coach and the founder of the Curly Confidante. Her business focused on empowering individuals to embrace and care for their hair with confidence. She offers personalized one-to-one education and support, and she assists people of all hair types and backgrounds. Faced with severe depression during the COVID-19 pandemic, Hannah's struggles led her to self-harm and an eventual suicide attempt. This episode uncovers how her journey to recover began with a simple yet profound act, embracing her natural curls. Hi everyone, welcome back to the Happiness Minute. We've got a special guest today. Her name is Hannah. Hi Hannah, how are you?
Hi, Anna. So good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. First of all, Hannah, before anything else, can you tell us more about what you do and your business?
Yeah, so my name's Hannah Bradley. My business is called The Curly Confidant, and I'm a hair coach. So I help people with how to wear and care for their hair with confidence through online one-to-one support and education.
Okay, so you mentioned hair coach. Can you tell me more about what it is? So what sort of services do you offer? It's very specific ones.
Yeah, sure. So a hair coach kind of sits between a hairdresser and a trichologist. Trichologists being
Yes.
experts in the science of the hair and scalp, if anybody hasn't come across that term before. And so I help people with how we wear our hair 365 days a year. So not just coming out of the salon with a fresh blow dry or whatever, feeling on top of the world, and not event styling for special occasions, but every single day, how do we feel in our body, about ourselves and our hair? And does it make us feel the way we deserve to feel about ourselves? So having the confidence every single day to be able to look after ourselves. So some of the ways I work with people are single consultations for people who are maybe just getting started on that hair care journey, looking for a little bit of advice, because there is so much information out there about hair care. And with that, unfortunately, comes some misinformation, but also that doesn't mean that all that information is relevant to you. So you might see somebody online with beautiful ringlet curls, and it just may not be that you're capable of having that kind of hair. That's not what was meant for you. And so trying to imitate their routine is not really going to give you the same results, because it's biology that's given them that hair. And then the routine helps define it. So I help people to learn what they need to do for them and our circumstances, plus our life, because we're all busy. We all have different circumstances and amounts of time to commit to our hair. And then that goes all the way up to 10-week coaching packages, one-to-one with people.
Okay. So
And
that means that for like people who have problems with their hair as well, like with medical conditions, do you help with that? Because you said 10 weeks, so presumably that would be more on that side.
Yeah, it could definitely be for people with hair and scalp problems. So I am trained to be able to detect the early signs of hair and scalp conditions, and can refer people to trichologists if they need to go down a diagnosis and treatment route. And then I can work with them through that diagnosis and treatment, all the way through to our more holistic hair care practices that will be supporting whatever treatment they need to receive. Also, I do energy therapy. So I'm a master energy worker, and I help people with the emotional side of our relationship with ourselves. And if you do have a hair and scalp condition, that is going to come with a massive emotional journey. Even if it's something you've lived with for a long time, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're okay with it or that you feel good about it. It's just something we can get used to. So I help people with that side as well. But it's also great for people who, say, for example, have wavy curly hair and have just never been taught how to look after it. So they might have been hiding behind hair straighteners, or just living with frizzy hair, thinking that that was normal, or that that was the best they were going to achieve. So having that 10 weeks to work together and really nail some proper techniques that are unique to their hair type and see how they and their hair changes is one of my favorite things.
So do you work with a specific age group? So is it mostly like adults, or is there like children to up to what age, or is it mostly 21 years old, or up to what age? So who do
So I
you?
can work with anyone and everyone. I've done some
Okay.
work with children with their parents where they're not quite at an age where they're fully looking after their
Mm-hmm.
personal care routine, but they're starting to get curious about it. That's such a great age
Mm-hmm.
to be able to establish good hair care and body care routines and just how we view ourselves and our personal care. Typically, though, I'm working with women. Unsurprisingly, being hair, it does often attract a female audience. And it's in the kind of 40s to 60s age
40,
bracket
60.
around the menopause, because there can be significant hair changes at that time. And so it might be that they're worried about how their hair will change and they want to be preemptive on that, or they are experiencing hair changes, or just actually reflecting on life as well. And what is this next chapter going to bring me? How do I feel? How's my
Mm-hmm.
health and my wellness and my well-being? And do I have everything that I need and want to feel in order to really enjoy this next chapter of my life?
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Okay. Thank you for that introduction. So very first question ever for this episode is, I know like we talked, the episode is called How My Hair Became My Lifesaver. So how did your hair save you?
So I started my business because of my journey with my hair is really what inspired me to get going. So around the beginning of COVID, my mental health took a real decline. I know it was a very difficult time for a lot of us. And so throughout that journey, I didn't really notice the
Mhm.
day-to-day changes. There was no, I didn't obviously go from what I consider to be my happy, normal self to clinically depressed overnight.
Mhm.
It happened slowly, so slowly that I didn't even realize how bad my mental health was getting until suddenly waking up in the morning was a challenge, brushing my teeth was a challenge, even having the wherewithal to want to wash and or do my washing up. And it it can sound disgusting if you've not experienced it, but it is literally even the most basic of life tasks feel completely impossible. And this then led to some self-harm, and ultimately the crescendo was I tried to take my own life because I
Oh.
truly didn't believe that life could get better than it was at the time. And in recovering from that, I started to take self-care very seriously, not, oh, I'm going to treat myself to a bubble bath on occasion, but a total overhaul of how do I view myself and where am I putting myself on the priority list of my life, which unsurprisingly was quite far down the bottom.
Mhm.
Um, and then in doing that, happened to stumble across hair care, and it was just one of those things where you see an advert for something on social media, you click on it, and then that's literally all you ever see
Yeah.
for the rest of your life. So I clicked on this thing about the curly girl method, which some
Okay,
people
cool.
might be familiar with. So not something I follow now, but was my first introduction into this world of textured hair care, because I've been straightening my hair for like 14 years at this point, a long time, because I didn't know that I had a choice. When I was younger, my hair wasn't anywhere near as defined and wavy curly as it is now. It was a frizzy mess like Hermione from Harry Potter 1 kind of vibes, which wasn't a look, because Jennifer Aniston from Friends was the look when I was
Yeah.
at school, with her beautiful straight hair. And so I straightened my hair. I saw my mum straightening her hair, and so I wanted that for me. So I hid behind those straighteners for years, and I literally didn't know that I could do anything else but that. Um, so then coming across this idea that maybe hidden behind all of that, I had this wavy curly hair was just really exciting. And I thought, oh my gosh, I remember laughing with my mum, like, Mum, can you imagine if I've had curly hair all this time? Wouldn't that be so funny? But as my hair changed, when I was giving it the care that it always needed, I fundamentally changed as a person, and it gave me the energy and the sense of self-worth that I needed to turn my life around and get better, to have the energy to get myself into coaching, to have the energy to reflect on my priorities and make changes in my routines. And one of the biggest changes was I found out, or rather I woke up to the fact that I was actually in a religious cult, which I'd been part of for about 6 years at that time, which is like, that feels like a whole lifetime ago, and it really wasn't that long ago at all. Yeah, and I couldn't have done that had my relationship with myself and my body and who I am as a person and how I value myself, had that not changed as a direct result of my hair changing, it changed everything.
Oh, oh, that was something. So do you think that would be that being in a religious cult, will that be a challenging part of this journey, or is there any other ones that are more challenging?
That was definitely the most challenging part, which is funny because recovering from the depression itself was challenging enough, but it pales into insignificance into what it was like when I realized what I'd got myself into. And it's not, you don't just leave and say see you later and nothing changes. I chose to excommunicate myself from this religion, so which involved writing a letter to the elders of my congregation that I was part of, denouncing myself from the religion. And I knew that as soon as that letter was received, my entire friend group would disappear in that instant, because you're not allowed to have any communication at all with somebody who has chosen to leave the religion or has been kicked out for whatever reason. So, you know, these were people that had been my almost my only support network for years, because that's how they do it. They had, you're discouraged from having any friends or meaningful relationships outside of the religion. So they were my whole world, even to such a close relationship that one of the ladies helped to talk me down from a suicide attempt before I had the one where I went through with it. And just like that, they were gone. And I knew that's how it would be. And people would say, oh, I can't believe it. Surely somebody will, message you, make sure you're all right. But no, as soon as that letter was read out to the congregation, I knew that would be that. And it was. And I haven't heard from any of them since. And there was a huge healing and grieving process from that. And also I had a lot of guilt and resentment, and I was angry at how they could do that to me, and guilty for having made those choices and what I put because my family aren't part of this religion, gratefully, which means I still have my family in my life. But I felt guilty for what I put them through the years. And I was angry at myself because I made this decision as an adult. It's not something I grew up with as childhood. So as a, what I like to think, intelligent adult, I made the decision to join this group and I couldn't see what it really was. So there was, a lot of healing that had to be done from that, a lot of forgiveness and acceptance. And there was a time I couldn't have been having this conversation because it was so raw and so fresh, but I've done a lot of healing from that now. But that was an interesting challenge that I didn't see life was going to throw my way. But all these
it's to
things
do with the
happen
change
for
in
a
your hair.
reason.
All of this came
Yeah,
about.
I would exactly. It literally did all spiral from there. Hair is that important and that powerful. It's not just some fiber that sticks out of your head. It's part of who you are as a human being.
So do you think, like, because of this experience of yours, it has changed your perspective on how you see, everyday things we often take for granted?
1,000,000%, yeah. Because as I say, when I really realized how far my mental health had declined, then I started looking back and seeing the signs of, just feeling like life was moving a bit slower, feeling a bit of anxiety in my stomach about, getting up and going to work. And I've worked in customer service at the time, so I hadn't started my business then, which is very people facing. So, the energy it takes to put on that mask when you're really not feeling it. And I just thought that was all normal and I didn't notice it. Whereas now, having come out the other side, I'm so much more aware of how I'm feeling on any given day. And actually almost to my detriment for a while, because I was suddenly so anxious about getting depressed again that it went too far to the other extreme. So I've found better balance on that now. But I would try to be much more grateful as well. I have a couple of amazing coaches that I've worked with in my life, business coaches, personal coaches, and both have shared the same advice about the important role that gratitude plays in our life. And now I try to make that practice every day, that I think about things that I'm grateful for, even if it's been a bad day, there is still good things to be seen, and that helps level my mood and keep things in perspective. So yeah, definitely. And that helps you pay more attention to the little things that we can easily take for granted.
Hmm. Yeah, because I know, like you mentioned a while ago, that it actually wreak havoc on your mental health. So do you think there is still long-term effects on your mental health and also physical health as well, right? Do you think that this experience of yours do have a long-term effect? And how do you manage that? How do you think you would manage that going forward?
It's had a long-term effect in the sense that it's always going to be something that's part of my journey now. And how we have to decide how we're going to deal with that. Are we
Mhm.
going to sit and feel and continue to bring that depression forward about having been depressed, feeling
Mhm.
down about having been depressed at all? Or for me and my healing journey, I recognize that ultimately out of this experience came the best possible things, because my hair changed, I changed, I woke up to something I needed to remove from my life. I
And you've got
started
a
my
business.
business. Exactly, started my business. I've had the chance to meet amazingly supportive people like you, and my community that I have now, and friends that I have now that I would never have had the opportunity to know and meet had all of this not
Mhm.
happened. So for me, it's had a positive long-term effect because I'm able to see those positive things now. Although the recovery was long and is something
Mhm.
that I think I will probably always be aware of. Physically, thankfully, it has not had any long-term detrimental effects on my health. But you could say it's had positive effects on my physical health because my hair care routine has changed,
It's
and
better.
my hair is so much healthier than it was, for one. And I still now get new hair growth that I didn't even realize I needed. When I started this journey, I wasn't consciously aware of having any patches or increased shedding or
Mm.
anything like that, because I just didn't pay attention to it. I may well have done, for all I know, but I just didn't pay any attention to it. um and yeah, as a result of this, I've had new hair growth coming in. So that's only can be a positive thing as well. So yeah, and I take a lot better care of myself now, or I try to. None of
Mm.
us are saints. I try to take better care of myself now than I did before. So really, for me, the long-term effects have been positive.
Yeah, because I remember, like, in my case as well. So I do lose a bit of hair if I'm stressed. So I think one of the main things that people having an issue with in terms of their hair is hair loss because of the stress and too much work, and that's why do you tend to get those conversations with your clients as well?
Yeah, definitely. There is a huge link between our emotional health and our physical health, and that extends to our hair. So, stress in the form of work stress, stress in the form of extreme emotional distress, like grief, losing a
Mhm.
relationship, and things like that, divorce, can have a massive impact on our hair and can lead to increased shedding and poor hair quality. And so that is why, as part of my business, in addition to doing the physical side of help with people, so like our products and accessories and our hair care practices, I'm also doing the energy side,
Yeah.
because I recognize that we need to do both. We are complex beings. We are not just
Mm.
one thing. We are not just our physical body. We're not just our brain. We're not just our feelings. We are a whole mishmash, messy web of all of these things entangled together, and they cannot be separated. Your hair as well needs to be a holistic approach because of the impact your emotions will have on your hair
Mm.
health.
Yeah, because I think also it does affect, especially with women. Hair is a big thing in terms of like women. Also with men, I guess like when they go older, it's one of these things that they tend to look at more. So do you work with men as well, or mostly women?
It is mostly women for sure, because typically hair, as I say, attracts a female audience. But then what can happen is, after working with the woman in the house, say, she's
Yes, that's
then,
right.
oh, right, I need to get my husband on this. I need to get my teenage son on this, or I need to get my daughter on this, onto this, whatever. Um, and definitely not to underestimate the role that hair plays in men's lives as well, because there are obviously occasions where hair is causing problems. So, for example, if genetically a man is going bald or kind of that hairline is receding from a young age, that can be an enormous challenge emotionally, as well as then going grey, and then all the way through to older men, where when you start to go grey, your hairline starts to recede, you can start to think, is that it? Am I done? Am I past it now?
Yeah.
Are the young bucks going to come in and start taking my position? Are they going to look for a way to nudge me out of here without me noticing, kind of thing? And of course, those same feelings can be reflected in women as well. But yeah, so we all are emotively affected by our hair. It's just as women, we typically talk about those emotions more. But that's why there's a massive movement towards men's mental health, because men don't talk about their feelings as readily, or it's frowned upon even sometimes for men to talk about those kind of things.
So I'm actually quite curious. Have you like spoken to similar people who had like a similar journey to you as well?
Yes, yeah. So through networking, I had the chance to meet somebody who's had a very similar experience to me, in terms of realizing that they were in a very strict religion, which was humongously validating to be able to speak to somebody who understands. And I think that's why it's so powerful. If we feel comfortable sharing our story, obviously nobody should ever put themselves in a position where they feel vulnerable or exposed or uncomfortable by any means. But if you're comfortable sharing your story, whatever it is that you've been through, don't underestimate the power that that has, because that was such an impactful conversation for me that I will always remember. Because even though it didn't change either of our situations, because what's happened has happened and you can't change that, it was so nice to speak to somebody who just understood. I didn't need to explain anything. Even the lingo in some cases was the same. And I remember when I was first looking at coaching, I was looking to see whether there were any specialists who specifically work with cult survivors and people that are either have exited, are looking to exit, or are kind of just starting to explore if what they've been taught is true and that kind of thing. And there were so few. I found one person really who absolutely did specialize in the religion as well that I specifically was leaving. I think there needs to be more conversation around it. I did say, when I was again starting to research about leaving, found a Reddit subthread specifically about this religion. And whilst that was helpful to a degree, but at the same time, there were lots of people in there who were at different stages of their recovery, understandably. And some of them were very angry and full of hate, and obviously had been through some significantly awful things. But that's not where I was. I wasn't leaving with any hate in my heart at all. I just knew I needed to leave because it wasn't where I was meant to be anymore. And so, again, that's where the more people from different backgrounds and experiences share their story, you will resonate with somebody, because there will be at a similar, or they will have been at a similar stage in your journey to where you are. Whereas I chose to leave that subthread because I could feel it wasn't good for me, because it wasn't in harmony with where I was at.
Yeah. So I think I've got two last questions for you. So this one is, what message do you hope our listeners take away from your experience?
I think the biggest message is to just make sure you are taking care of yourself in whatever way that means for you, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all of the above. Please, please take care of yourself. Do not let it get to the point where you wake up one day and you think, what's happened to my life? How am I suddenly here with this job I hate, or a body that I resent, or whatever it is that you're going through? You don't deserve that. You deserve to be happy and live a life of joy and love yourself on such a deep level, because you are special and the world is a better place with you in it. So please, 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 if you do nothing else, take care of yourself.
Yes, that's a very good takeaway. Take care of yourself. So I guess the last question is, how do people connect with you? They want to speak to you about, hair care, and also about your experience as well. How do they reach you?
Yeah, so you can pop onto my website if you're interested in looking more about hair coaching, which is thecurlyconfidant.co.uk. And then I'm all over socials. So I'm on Instagram as the_curly_confidant, Facebook as the Curly Confidant, TikTok on there. I've got my LinkedIn page, or drop me an email, which will be on any of the socials. And if you want to talk about hair, great. If you want to talk about what it's like exiting a strict religion,
Oh, yes,
and
yeah.
it's not just to say cults specifically, but even some mainstream religions
Mm-hmm.
can have very strict denominations. So if anybody wants
Mm-hmm.
to talk about that, or depression and mental health, anything, or just what it means to look after yourself and why that's so important, please do reach out. I'm always happy to share my story. I'm very open and happy to connect with anybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hannah. I've learned so much today. And it's like, oh, yeah, there is something. So, everyone, thank you again for listening to this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and definitely share this episode to your colleagues, friends, and family. So, until in 2 weeks' time, we're coming back with a new episode. So, until next time, see you. Bye.
Bye.